I'm still, this is my first podcast that I said yes to, Ed. I actually denied podcasts for a while. Like I haven't done an episode in, I would say probably 6 to 8 months. I just didn't really feel like telling my story because I'm like, I'm still figuring shit out. Like, don't get me wrong, I've had a lot of successes, but like, I'm still figuring this stuff out. I've guested on over 100 podcasts. I got some stuff to share, but I kind of took a hiatus. But when you made the invitation, I was like, I think I could talk again. I think I'm ready. So I had 3 rental properties, and then I lost them and 130,000 in debt. So that was my 20s. That was by far the most expensive because I didn't know what I was doing and I had no clue. I just read Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was in college, and instead of buying a car, I bought my first house. And I bought the house at 160, and then it was like after a year it was up to 220 or something. I was like, wow, I'm gonna be rich. Like, he's in the other room right now. He's 5.5, and we had a tough run, man. He was on a trach and a ventilator for his first 4 years. He had a G tube and a J tube for feeding. He was on full oxygen for a very long time as well. And so he just started walking and eating by mouth about a year ago, and he was fully discharged from all of medical complexities on his 5th birthday, New Year's Eve. So now we're recording this July, so it's been about 7 months, and he is just thriving.
Are you stuck in that $3 to $10 million year-over-year revenue? Roofs in a Box is your all-in-one growth partner for modern construction companies. They combine AI, virtual staffing, and CRM solutions to help streamline operations. Replace your high fixed overhead with cost-effective systems and support. They empower you to run a smarter, leaner business, freeing up capital where it matters most. Mention this ad to save 10% on your next Roofs in a Box purchase. This episode of Pain Points is brought to you by Ringba. If your business relies on phone calls, you need to be working with them. Their technology will help you get the most money out of your marketing campaigns. Their call exchange, Ringba X, can deliver inbounds on demand to help grow your customer base. Now, I want to be transparent. Ringba and Adam did pay me to deliver that message, but I'm also a customer, and I've watched them help dozens of companies become more successful over the years. So if you sell a product or service over the phone, I guarantee a moment with their team will be worth it. All right, welcome to another episode of Pain Points, where real pain equals real growth. Today we got Mike Abramowitz, who's an entrepreneur, best-selling author, speaker, co-founder of the Worm Method, helping business owners build referral systems and create sustainable growth and more freedom. Over the past 20 years, he's built elite sales organizations, generated nearly 20 million in team sales, and author of 9 books, including The Best Year Ever. He's spoken on major stages, appeared on hundreds of podcasts, and founded nonprofits for Tampa Bay, serving over 100,000 meals. I think it's called PB&J. His mission is rooted in helping entrepreneurs build businesses that support what matters most in life. So, Mike, welcome.
Thanks, Ed. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah, I talk really fast, so I'm not nervous. It's just the speed I go at.
Perfect.
Um, so there's so much meat on, like, we have so much in common, even from our kids in NICU to trying to mentor other business owners. But I'm gonna go ahead and start with, most business owners say referrals are their best source of leads. So why do so many have if you have a system to generate them consistently?
So the short of it is, I'm coming from 20 years of lived experience of being in referral marketing. So my direct sales that you mentioned, like 20 million in knife sales, and recruited over 5,000 sales reps, and all of this was through word of mouth. So I'm like biased because all I know is referrals. So it's just most companies when they build, they have their marketing department where they, have cold traffic. Like Alex Hormozy talks about one to many, one to one, cold and warm. And a lot of people go to one to many cold, and it's very expensive. My entire lived experiences of my professional life was always one to one warm. That's just what worked best. And sometimes one to one many, but it was always one to one more. Invest in the relationship. So most companies, they invest dollars into marketing, a marketing department, then they'll have a sales department, and then they'll have like a client success or a fulfillment department. Very seldom does a referral department ever get any type of attention. They just think, okay, we'll just ask for referrals, or maybe they'll happen organically. And that's just not how I've been brought up. I always had tracking systems, operating rhythms, a white glove experience for any type of introductions that took place, thank you bonuses that were a part of it, making sure that there was a tracking cadence, follow up, nurture sequences, a specific ask script, how to pre-frame the conversations, and just like have psychological reframes for my entire organization, anyone that I was working with. So everyone knew referrals was a part of everyone's job in the organization because referrals and introductions are directly correlated to the growth of our company and the mission that we're working towards. So, like you said, PB&J for Tampa Bay, I had 1,000 volunteers and over 100,000 sandwiches. That was one-to-one many, 9 books. All two of them that hit number one on Amazon bestseller list was just courting and sourcing people to help support the book, and then the stories for the book, getting speaking on stages, and all of it was just using and leveraging relationships and introductions and having conversations with people and having ROR, the return on relationship. So I don't know if that necessarily answers the question directly, but I just think anyone listening really needs to just take a look at their ROR, the return on relationships, and see where could I invest in relationships a little bit more or more intentionally, potentially.
So you brought up a phrase I haven't heard before, and I'm not, excuse my ignorance, it would probably say the same things just in different socio-constructed terminology. You use the word warm versus cold. Can you enlarge upon that and what that means?
Sure, sure. And Hormozy talks about this in $100 million leads. He, one-to-one warm. So warm introduction of someone who's warm is there's already some sort of know, like, and trust factor. And then cold is they don't even know who I am. So keeping it as simple as possible. So if I'm doing one-to-one warm, that would be like a text message, an email, a phone call, a voice memo. If it's one-to-one many, warm, or one to many, I'm so one to many warm, that would be like a social media post to my network, speaking to other person's audience, and I'm speaking to them. I have a captive audience and they have a chance to know, like, and trust me, and I reach back out to them with an email list or a follow-up or something like that. They opted in. Then there's one-to-one cold, which is like random DMs or like cold emails. They have no idea who I am. I got to earn their trust. And then one-to-one many would be like paid ads, as an example. So, and then you could get a little bit more complicated with referral partnerships and how do you court referral partnerships in the exact same way. Very similar with that same little metrics. But warm, know, like, and trust already exists. Cold, I have to earn the know, like, and trust is the easiest way to
Makes
think about
sense.
it.
No, I love it. It's like warm referrals are always the best. That makes sense. I don't like to assume I know things just because I've done a lot of business. I have the way my mind compartmentalizes it. You talk about referrals as the fourth department of business. Can you kind of enlarge upon that? And then secondly, if you can, kind of the piggyback off of that is why do you feel and most small business are missing that?
Well, because no one owns it. So what happens is, when's the best time to ask for a referral? Most people will say when the client is having a good experience, ask for the referral. So that would be the client success team. Client success gets a referral, great, but they're not qualified or trained on how to book that appointment or sell that appointment. So then what do they do with it? Well, maybe they toss it to marketing, maybe they toss it to sales, or maybe nothing happens with it and then that referral just gets lost. That sucks. Then it's like, so my philosophy is, when's the best time to ask for a referral is anytime we're having an interaction with someone. So that could mean marketing can get referrals when they're top of funnel. Sales can get referrals when it's middle of funnel, and fulfillment can get referrals at the bottom of the funnel. All we have to do is just make sure that they are confident with asking anytime the opportunity presents itself. I just had I just have so much lived experience. I've been guesting on over 100 podcasts. All the podcasts I've built, it's all warm. It's just like, hey, by the way, we're gonna have a conversation today. If we have a good conversation, I'd love to get introduced to more people. Could I get introduced to a couple other people if we have a good conversation today? Whether or not we're gonna like do business together. And then if we are doing business together, it's like, hey, I love doing business with you. Would you mind making a couple of introductions, not for them to do business with me, but just to see where the conversations go, because who knows who they know, and then it just continues that flywheel going. So that's
So can you
that's where I
enlarge
was at.
upon can you enlarge upon the concept of the fourth department?
So it needs to be run by a champion who runs the department. So just like there's a department head who runs sales. They run training for sales. They have a CRM for sales. They have a meeting cadence where they look at the dashboards. They look at the databases and the spreadsheets. That's what needs to happen for referrals. So referrals, every time someone gets introduced, where's it getting tracked? Did we send out the gift, the thank you bonus? Did we get them booked? Is it managed like a pipeline for any referrals that are coming in? How are we tracking? Did we get heads up text messages sent to these people from from whoever made the introduction? Did we get in touch with them? Did we send the gifts? Did we ask these people for introductions? Did they respond to our invitations that we sent to them? Just like tracking, just as if you were doing that for any department. Red, green, yellow lights for client success. They look at the clients. Hey, is this person satisfied? What's their NPS score? They manage it. They track it. There's an operating rhythm. There's a meeting cadence around it. Same thing with marketing. What's our click to spend ratio? How many calls are we getting booked from our advertising? They have just meetings and data and dashboards. Same exact thing that I believe referrals should have for a company,
That. I'm
or
gonna
a
do a little
version of
bit.
that, I should say.
Yeah, I love it. This is actually a little loaded question, and you and I have something very similar here with our sons in NICU. Your son spent 254 days. How did that experience reshape your definition of success? And secondly, the kind of business that you wanted to build?
So what happened was is I was I'll give it just a context here. So I went to a Tony Robbins event 2012, 2013. He said, my mess is my message. So I'm a 7-time fire walker, but when I went to that event, I was at a low. Like I was near bankrupt at a 400 credit score. I had 3 rental properties that I bought when I was in college. So when I graduated college with my engineering degree, I had 3 houses. I was renting them out. I sold Cutco kitchen knives and I was doing really well. But then the market collapsed 2008. I lost the properties. I was negative 130,000 in debt. I was 400 credit score, near bankrupt. I was like really at a low of lows. So I called the valley of my 20s. So by the time I went to this event, I was trying to go to this event to like kind of figure out what is my life's purpose because I'm really struggling here, figuring some of that stuff out. And he said, my mess is my message. So from that, I left and said, okay, how can I take all the lessons and turn them into gifts? So that's when I spent 300 hours speaking at the schools that next year, teaching students what my life lessons were to figure out what is my mess and what is the message. That turned into my first book, Grab Tomorrow, Your Best Year Ever. So from there, I started doing book signing and speaking. I was still running my direct sales organization. So I'm running a direct sales organization. I'm writing books. I'm speaking. And then I had a relationship that ended after 7 years. I'm like, I could barely find time to eat, nevertheless, have a relationship and be a dad and kid. My dad works 6 days a week, still to this day. He's 85 years old and still works 6 days a week in his plumbing business, answering every phone calls. And I would have loved my dad to be a part of more basketball games growing up. And it was just like, how can I make sure that I can position myself to work from home if I wanted to have a little bit more time freedom and flexibility? So that's when I hired a business coach around 2016, and he helped me figure out what is the distraction, what is the main thing. And the main thing was, how do I build a vehicle as a bit called a business, a vehicle that can produce cash flow in my zone of genius in a predictable, sequential way. And then I take that cash flow, put it into investments. So my cash makes money, my business makes money, and then my money makes more money. And that can create a flywheel of success to get me out of the hole that I was in. So that was back in 2016 when I was broke. I was going to say effing broke, but I don't know if this is a clean show. So I'll try to so I get passionate, just get in the flow. So all of that came from, okay, let me sunset the book writing. Let me sunset the speaking because all of that relied on me. So let me just focus on my direct sales organization. That's the only thing I'll do. I'll focus only on that. So I started McDonaldifying my direct sales organization. How do I build predictable, simple processes? So I started calling my organization an innovation station. I brought in offshore virtual assistants. I brought in technology and automations. I updated some of our CRMs and databases. I started creating videos. So there's a concept. If you find yourself repeating yourself, record, resource, or replace yourself. So I just did those R's. I recorded myself. I replaced myself. I resourced myself. I made things as simple as possible. So someone offshore technology or a college age kid can do it as effective as me. Did that, and then boom, COVID hits.
You said this. You got so much there that's
I
packed
do.
into
So
there, and
yeah, go
I
for it.
feel like a lot of the audience, some are going to resonate with, and I feel like you've said so much that a lot of entrepreneurs that I mentor don't have, and you brought up a lot of things, right? You brought in. I always say before you start chasing 100 different shinies, create your ATM machine, right? You got to kind of have this sustainable business model. The reason I have so many companies is because they run themselves, right? And if I don't, and I don't have to pay myself, so I don't have the stress like a lot of entrepreneurs have before you start all these things. If you have the economic stress, you can't invest in the business. You using it like a your own checking account. And so you brought up a lot of different things. And I think the first thing you said is to kind of take back a little bit. Let's enlarge upon just entrepreneurs just having one area of focus, kind of have doing what you do well. Like you said, something around like master what you're a master on, like enlarge upon that and just kind of create the system flows operations. Um, yeah, so I want to talk about that for a second because I feel like so many entrepreneurs, they are the business. They're working in the business versus on the business. They can't replicate themselves. They've never documented anything. They don't have SOP. So kind of just talk about the importance of that. And then when I know you've talked to thousands of business owners, really, what percentage of those business owners do you feel even do that bare basic fundamental parts of running a business?
Well,
I
this
know that's a loaded question, but you
it's
said
a
a lot.
loaded.
So
Yeah, I'll do my best to answer it. If not, we could poke around. So very last part you said is which business. It depends on what circles you're swimming in. So like I'm swimming with Sam Taggart and door to door experts and Forge Roofing, and because of that, he's trained over 60,000 sales reps, and they have a lot of really good systems and processes and documentation. So if I'm inside of that community, there's a lot of people who are dialed in. But then when I go to some other communities and some other mastermind groups and some other organizations, it's like, what are you guys doing? You're like floundering. Like I spoke at an outdoor lighting conference. I was a keynote speaker there. And I was like, you guys are really effed with how you guys are running your businesses because they are all owner operators. Everything runs through them. As simple as when the phone number is listed on the website, what phone number does it go to? And it was like, well, it goes to my cell phone. It's like, well, what if you're on vacation? Well, then I answer it. How does your wife feel about that? It's like, so you are the business. The business legitimately only runs through you. There's no CRM, there's no tracking, there's no after hours communication, there's no texting option, there's no form to fill out, there's no self-scheduling booking. Like just it was like, oh my God,
even subsequential call routing, like you said, like when after hours, does AI answer? Does it
any
go
of
to an
that.
after hour place? Like,
Correct.
do I have day parsing on my lead generation, right? To make sure
Correct.
when nobody's in the office that we're not paying for leads during that time crunch. I mean, all those things
Correct.
you just mentioned. So the
Yes.
owner, same guy taking the lead is the same guy on the roof, doing
Correct.
the bid in the boat. They're the best salesperson, right? They are the
Yes.
business. Oh man,
Exactly.
you just brought up so many and the thing about Tony Robbins, you brought up the mess versus the message. Can you give me two or three other favorite quotes you love from him? Because I don't drink all
Oh
the Kool-Aid,
yeah.
I love a lot of what he teaches.
Off self and on purpose was a really is was a huge one that I lived by. And then there's this the
And
six human.
large upon each of these too, because I think
Okay, yeah, yeah.
unless you do the events or do the business mastery or do these different things, I think a lot of these
Yeah, yeah. So
uh,
off self on purpose. So the short of that one is I was I'll back them with stories or examples just so it anchors in a sales rep in my direct sales organization. He broke up with his girlfriend. He got dumped. He was pissed. He was upset. Didn't want to do any sales calls anymore. He's like, I can't even get off the couch. So off self on purpose came in where I said, listen, man, you're still living. You're still alive. How could we get off your pain and just focus on a purpose that's bigger than you? And that was the birthplace. If I said, what if we made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and just pass them out to some people for some perspective, focused on helping some other people, and then see how you feel? He's like, all right, I'll get behind it. So we raised up some donations, raised up some volunteers. And then from there, we made 350 sandwiches. And we did that every single Sunday, the third Sunday of every month for 5 years. And that's how we fed 100,000 people. Came from off self on purpose. So that's a really great, powerful Tony Robbins like perspective. Another one that I was going to kind of allude to is Tony talks about the six human needs a lot: certainty, uncertainty, significance, connection, and then growth and contribution. So the challenge, the benefit of knowing that is like we have a need to know certainty. I'm in control. But we also have the need to know that I like letting go of that control, and I want to kind of have a bunch of variety in my life, because too much certainty is boring, but too much variety could be irresponsible. Yet humans have both of those needs. And that's where sometimes it could be extremely tough for business owners when it comes to having too much control and letting go of control. And then there's significance and connection. It's like significance. I want to feel important, but I also want everyone to love me. And sometimes the decisions that we have to make to feel really significant, feel really validated, I'm important, might make someone not like me. So those are two psychological needs that we have and human needs that we have that are also sometimes in conflict, which makes decision making tough and running a business. We can't be liked, but we want to be liked. We want to make sure we please everyone, but we can't always please everyone. So that's why sometimes that's the decision making criteria is in conflict. And then the last one is growth and contribution. I want to grow and become a better human. That's a spiritual need. So therefore, I can give and contribute more to humanity and to my fellow peers and those I love. And those are the two spiritual needs. And that's where Tony says, if we can understand how our like the psychological needs and our four like surface level needs, how to really support those in the best way possible, so that way we could create bandwidth and space for I can grow in order for me to contribute, because the love connection piece, the growth contribution piece, those are like the more higher frequency needs that we want to try to serve. But too many people are stuck on the control, the variety, or the significance of feeling important. So again, lots to unpack there, dude. I've
No,
dedicated
I love it.
decades a
It's
lot of
funny.
this, but
It's funny what resonates with me, like so some of those spiritual principles and whatnot. I feel when I walked in there, I had a lot of that. So I heard it and it kind of just glazed over. I mean, it resonated, but I didn't really catch me. The ones that like got me were like get a CFO, because I had a controller trying to give me CFO advice or financial forecasting. The other one was business owner versus business operator, right? It revolutionized my perception. So it's funny that the things that hit different people. All right, so that was two. So what's your third one?
well, I mentioned the mess is my message, so we got that one. Then we have the off self on purpose, and we have the six human needs. Um, if there was another one that I speak about a lot, would be state management. So there's the triad of our state. So we could say state for, we could change that for emotions, but like how essentially how we feel. So there's a triangle, and if you're looking at, if you're watching this on video, one end of the triangle is our language, which is our words. Another part of the triangle is our body, our physiology, how we move, and then the other one is our mindset or our focus or our psychology. All three of those essentially create our emotions. So what suggests is that when we are approaching any situation in our life, if we can check what we're saying, what we're doing with our body, and what we're doing with our thoughts, that's going to create meaning and emotion around whatever it is that we're doing. So if we say, like words, the questions that we ask ourselves is going to determine how we're going to approach that situation. Why does this always happen to me? Versus, I wonder what this is trying to teach me. That would be like language as an example. Our focus, where our thoughts are going. It's like, what is this is will this be a waste of my time, which kind of lives with the question, which is like, how can I make the most out of this opportunity? What, or the focus would be, what would be the best outcome for this situation if I had to like kind of really dream or meditate on that, and that was the best outcome for the situation. And then it would be our body. Like, what am I doing with my posture? Am I smiling or am I frowning? Am I sitting up straight? Am I slouching over? What's my physiology like? What's my, the energy level that I'm bringing in? So when I do all three of those things intentionally and like really bringing those in, that's going to create my emotional state. And from that emotional state is typically where we can make our highest decisions and our best decisions from that place. The challenge is some people are just firing from the hip, a lot of reaction mode, things coming in, calls coming in, blah, blah, blah. So I can't sit there and think about what I want to focus on or questions to ask or words to think or what to do with my body because I'm constantly firefighting all the way. So that's why that whole idea of working on the business versus in the business, we want to position ourselves to build predictability inside the business. So we create the space to work on the business, but I'll add the asterisk to work on myself as the leader, to work on myself and work on the business, having some personal time to do some of that deep reflection, even if it's only in the mornings or a couple hours a week, is going to be really helpful. That's at least what's helped me at least.
I think that's paramount. I think that's what a lot of business owners don't do. They're so busy from sundown to sun up or sun up to sundown. I mean, they're just nonstop grinding. They don't take the time to learn, to teach, to just like you said, get right, realign. And I know Tony Robbins big on that, like physical type of movement, make your move kind of stuff, right? To change your state, right? They're too busy just grinding. They can't even get out of their own way.
It's and
You
you're
brought
putting
back
me
a
on the
lot of
spot here, man. I haven't looked at some of this stuff in I mean years. You got to understand. I studied this from like 2012, 2013 until like 2022 or something like that. But 2020, because then my son was born. My son was born on New Year's Eve of 2020. And that's when it wasn't like, oh, let me study this stuff anymore. No, no, no. That was game time. Like now I got to implement all these personal growth, self-awareness stuff. Like JFK said, the best time to work on the roof is when the sun is shining. So I'm so grateful that I went and poured myself into self-development, personal growth in the seasons where I didn't, it was like, yes, I was out of desperation, but it was all just me versus me. But then it was like, shoot, I got a wife and now I have a son that's in the NICU. I mean, we have a lot of responsibilities. I mean, there was a lot of unpredictability in that season. So just to tie a bow on that story, because I think it's important, when COVID hit, all the business systems and all those things allowed me to like have a virtually run operation. So like I prepared for a predictable business before I needed that predictable business.
yeah.
And then when my son was born, it was like all systems go. I had 11 locations. And it was like, what do I do? And I called and I ran a meeting. I said, y'all are in control. I mean, we had about a dozen offshore virtual assistants. I had another team of like 15 onshore. And I was like, let's figure this out. Here you guys go. You guys got all the SOPs, all the playbooks. I recorded all these videos and I was like the eyes in the sky working from my phone and my laptop in the hospital room, but like I wasn't running the trainings. I wasn't running the interviews anymore. I wasn't doing the coaching calls. I wasn't doing sales calls. I wasn't, I wasn't doing any of the day to day for any of those 11 locations while we're in the NICU for 8.5 months. I worked on stuff and supporting and working through the leadership team and the department heads. We still did over 7 figures in knife sales, just running it during that time frame. So why is it significant is because when I was in the NICU, I didn't have the bandwidth to do a lot of that other stuff. Like it was just really difficult emotionally. So I went to my minimum viable product of what could I do? Can I do 60,000 steps a week to keep my physiology in place? And then I had a list of like a dreams list of things to do with my son. He was 1 pound, 4 ounces. And I would just look at this list of like 50 activities I'm looking forward to do with my son as dad activities, to just kind of keep me focused. And like, those are two things, the focus and the physiology. So it was like implementing that each day. Everything else was bonus. If I could just do those two things, 60,000 steps, move my body, and just focus on things that are bigger than right now, that was helpful. And it was hard. It was hard because sometimes I didn't really feel like doing that shit. But and then I know you could relate too. You've had your version of that. So
Well, I got two questions for you because these are like huge in my life, right? So, one, first of all, how's your son doing today?
he is fantastic. He's in the other room right now. He's 5.5, and we had a tough run, man. He was on a trach and a ventilator for his first 4 years. He had a G tube and a J tube for feeding. He was on full oxygen for a very long time as well. And so he just started walking and eating by mouth about a year ago, and he was fully discharged from all of medical complexities on his 5th birthday, New Year's Eve. So now we're recording this July, so it's been about 7 months, and he is just thriving. He's potty training. He's doing awesome. He's had over 100 successful potty attempts this summer. So we're just playing a little catch up on some stuff, which is good. My wife is just doing an awesome job there. And she left corporate that she was working at her corporate job to become a full-time medical mom, and that was a huge challenge transition. And then on top of that, I mean, she fought with Medicaid and insurance companies as a full-time job. I mean, the hospital bill was over $5.5 million. So it was like just fighting for a lot of reasons. It was a challenging, extremely challenging season. So now I'm almost like I'm like I went to war and now the war's over and I'm trying to figure out how to be a civilian again. There's a lot of that like trauma of like, wow, how do I adapt to society and do it in the most healthy way? And I've made so many effing mistakes and mess ups, and it's this is not easy stuff. We could talk about it on a podcast, but like living it, it's difficult. And I'll also just click on this is when we got out of the NICU, how do I replace my wife's income? That's when we started a business, and I started a business with my now former business partner, but he was a really good friend. And I said, could we teach other entrepreneurs how to build a predictable business? And he said, let's find out. So we built a company together as like a consulting agency, like plugging in virtual assistants and coaching and whatnot. And we did that for 5 years. I just exited my 50% of that company in March. But yeah, we had our best month was like 125 grand that we built from scratch. We helped over 300 entrepreneurs in all different spaces, a lot in the trades. So then when I exited that since April, so April, May, June, July, here we are. I've been almost like a free agent, like helping other companies that want to kind of bring me in to bring my expertise in as I'm like trying to figure out and navigate where am I most valuable? So Cameron Harold scooped me up, and then Sam Taggart scooped me up, and Elijah Cheek scooped me up, Jake Farrell scooped me up, Della, there's these like companies, Danielle Putnam for the New Flat Rate scooped me up. So I have these really unbelievable people, Johnny Neal for Contractor Nation and School of Entrepreneurship. So it's just been really blessed. All those relationships coming back to full circle when we talked about referrals. Like I don't have a resume. It's not like I put my resume out on Indeed. I'm like, hey, who wants to hire me? I said, let me just reach out to people in my network and have conversations and say, who can I add value to? And I just did 20 to 30 conversations every single week. To this day, I'm still doing 20 to 30 conversations every single week just to see where they go. No attachment, just to see where these conversations lead. And it's been serving me. Some people might say that's a waste of time. I just think it's a really beneficial use of my time because, God has given me a gift, and I think it would almost be a terrible use of my time if I'm not using that gift and having conversations with people. So that's kind of the season I'm in right now, and I'm still. This is my first podcast that I said yes to. Ed, I actually denied podcasts for a while. Like I haven't done an episode in I would say probably 6 to 8 months. I just didn't really feel like telling my story because I'm like, I'm still figuring shit out. Like, don't get me wrong, I've had a lot of successes, but like, I'm still figuring this stuff out. I've guested on over 100 podcasts. I got some stuff to share, but I kind of took a hiatus. But when you made the invitation, I was like, I think I could talk again. I think I'm ready. But I've been hosting more. I've hosted like maybe 70 episodes instead of like being the guest during this last like 8 months.
It is interesting going from the opposite side, and I appreciate it. I think the reason why I even asked you was because of how much, and this is my first virtual one. You're the one who actually gave me permission to go virtual. All of mine have been in person, belly to belly. I'm kind of old school like that, and but what happened is like so much resonated from our kids in NICU. I mean, you're bringing up so many memories. My son was in the less than 1 percentile in speech comprehension and fine motor skill at 3.5 years old, less than 1%. That means he was the baseline, right? So when you talk about these struggles, but actually just one more thing, and so kudos to you on the resilience, not just because of identification, but it just takes a special someone to just kind of keep walking, keep moving, you're talking about changing mindsets, man. It's like and you're blessed to have that on autopilot, right? Because um rubber meets the road. I mean, it's recall. You have to be at recall at that point because if you're just starting when all that or all that's falling apart around you, I can't even imagine that kind of state that you would be in. But one other thing I wanted to say, and I love this piece of it as well, like your wife, because it has to speak testimony to who she is and supporting not just the family walking away from entrepreneur, but what does it mean to have a backbone like that, just kind of supporting you in your endeavors and your vision and your dream?
Well, I would say, she is she's definitely a special human, because the context also that's not talked about is we did IVF due to male factor. So you add that into the whole mix. And then before we had a stillbirth at 20 weeks, we also had a couple miscarriages too. So she's had to gone through about 1,500 injections, for IVF, two miscarriages and a stillbirth at 20 weeks for us to have our two kids. And now James is 5.5 and Ella's 2.5. And so all of that, and need to say goodbye to her master's degree that she got so she could become a corporate recruiter for BIC, the pens, the company that says so it's like, yeah, she's going through it. And then obviously I've had my share of mess ups in our relationship and stuff. So like add that to the mix, and she's a special human. There's no doubt about it. And extremely grateful for, we make a great team. When we're on the same team, we'll be celebrating 9 years of marriage this year, and we just actually this week we just put an offer on a house, and so we're under contract on our new home that we're moving into in the next upcoming months, which is really exciting here in St. Augustine, Florida. And it's we communicate, we dance with uncertainty, and I think we both are doing the best that we can with trying to raise two kids and overcoming what was and creating room for what will be is it's like a daily and a weekly balance, especially with two little ones. I mean, I would not say that we have it all figured out, but I do my best to honor her, and also just make sure that I'm showing up for business, and then I'm showing up for the family. And it's a lot of pressure, man. It's a lot of tough stuff for me. And then it's also really hard for her, where she's like, all I do is talk to two little kids all day, every single day, being touched, being talked to, being yelled at, being, like, gosh, that is such a hard job. And I think by me understanding that and seeing that does help. But man, it's tough. She definitely has a tough job.
So this brings up a good point. So my good relationship advice, I always tell people these three things. Always ask my wife, am I supposed to listen? Do you want my opinion? Even if it's the same topic later on. Two is always treat her like I'm courting her, because I can't treat her like I have her. And mine is the last one is because of the grind you just said, the is to give her accolades and affirm her, because her interaction all day is with toddlers. We have four boys, and I may be the only adult interaction she has that day. So I got to remember that, because I get my accolades at work and recognition and success and whatnot, and her grind is different. So I guess for you, what would be some of your pearls for relationship advice, as far as keeping a healthy,
Come on,
steady
bro.
relationship?
Do not let her hear any of this. She'll be like, Mike, you're full of shit, right? Like,
We all are at times. That's one of the
yeah,
blessings about
yeah,
relationships, better or worse.
yeah.
Sometimes it's the worst.
Uh, but I would say I do create space where I take both of the kids. So I do take both the kids. Usually, Daddy Day is on Saturdays, so I'll take them to the farmers market on Saturday. We go watch music there every Saturday. We go do our grocery shopping. Then I'll do some playground stuff. So I'll take them for pretty much most of Saturdays, so she could just decompress or do whatever the heck she wants to do on a Saturday. Sundays we do family day, so that way we could do that. Most Thursdays, we do some sort of like family dinner or something like that. Friday night, we do Shabbat. So we'll have our Shabbat dinner, and we have like our little tradition there. So, and then, so that's like what we have the kind of agreed on some of that stuff. We were doing when James is in school, we do a date day on Thursdays. So we've done that. So we had a babysitter, but then that babysitter got a new job. So we've been just taking our 2.5-year-old on the date, which is a way different experience. But when when we had the babysitter, we were every Thursday. We probably did maybe 30 to 40 dates on a Thursday, and we would just be a tourist in our city in St. Augustine. So we would go to the Ripley's Museum, or we would go take the trolley car. We would go grab breakfast and then lunch. We would go to the beach. We would go just like, whatever we would want to do on a date. And we would do have a check-in. Usually we would have a check-in. And a lot of times it would be one of us crying and talking about all the shit that we're frustrated with. And, whatnot, and we just have an open space to do that. And then sometimes it was just let's have fun and let's just date each other. So that's been a lot of the last like maybe 18 months or so.
Yeah, you
Um,
guys are in the middle of the grind. I mean, the young kid, the hospitals. I remember like until my kids turned that about 5, 6, it was kind of almost like zone defense for a while. That season of
it
life is
is. And we still
different.
co-sleep, so we still and she breastfed for 2 years, over 2 years. It was like 27 months, I think my wife did. So
Oh,
and we're
nice.
still, so it's a lot. There's a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so a couple other questions to pivot again. It's a good thing about ADHD. My mind goes all over the place. But the first thing is, what's the most expensive lesson you've had as an entrepreneur?
Well, the real estate one by far, because it was I had three rental properties and then I lost them and 130,000 in debt. So that was my 20s. That was by far the most expensive because I didn't know what I was doing and I had no clue. I just read Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was in college, and instead of buying a car, I bought my first house. And I bought the house at 160, and then it was like after a year it was up to 220 or something. I was like, "Wow, I'm gonna be rich. This is the best decision." And then my mom passed, unfortunately, when I was 20, and I took her life insurance money and I bought a condo with that, and that I thought was a good decision. And I bought that was like about 190, and a couple months, like even just a couple months later, it was like 240. I was like, this is going to be amazing, right? And then I found there was a tax sale for another one in New Jersey, and I bought that. I was like, great, I had these three properties, so I was crushing it. And then I got crushed. So all of it, I got the property got
I think even went
vandalized.
around 2000, 2008, 2009. I had a few friends with that were positioned for the season that bought a lot of short sales, but I was unfortunately part of you. I mean, I didn't know, even to this day when people get rich on real estate, I don't want to do it. I have so much PTSD from my that
So much.
2007, 2008. I don't even want to touch it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why, I mean, we bought a house in Clearwater a couple years ago in Florida. And then we rented for a while after we sold that and we moved. I was like, PTSD, but I've overcome a little bit of that. That's a growth for me to, go get this house. So we're really looking forward to it. And it's really beautiful, spot, like a half acre, 3,000 square feet, 5 bedroom, like really beautiful. And I think we could, really live a beautiful life raising our kids and our family and opening up this next season and this next chapter here. So, looking forward to that. And, but yeah, that lesson with the real estate for sure was probably the most expensive.
So, since you see the title of the podcast was just pain points, what do you feel your biggest pain point in growth was? What's one of the biggest lessons that you had to learn? And what would you like to share with maybe some of our young entrepreneurs that would would benefit from?
Hmm. I mean, obviously there's a lot of pain in all the stories that I shared. To give it like the absolute, um, to not give a surface level answer, I'm just kind of closing my eyes and just making sure that I give like what I believe the truth would be of like, and to clarify the pain of what I experienced and how I overcame it, or
It
what
could be
can
it could
you?
be both. It could be economic. It could be structure. It could just be the one of the biggest lessons that revolutionized your perspective. It's really it's really what it's personal to you. So there's really no wrong answer, and it may be a
Mhm.
couple answers, whatever resonates.
Sure. Okay. I don't think there was a more challenging season than when we were in the NICU with my son. That was it was the most challenging season because every day was so unpredictable. And coming back to like the human needs that Tony Robbins talked about, it's like we have a need for certainty. Like I need to know, and there was nothing. Like the same day, it could be like he's gonna die, he's doing well, and like we might get that news five to 10 times in the same day. Like it was just like trying to stay in equanimity and equilibrium, like and not go high in the high and low in the lows. And the same day was just really, really tough. And then it's like, oh, I'm overseeing 11 locations. Oh, and how am I gonna like pay for stuff? Like in the financial burden of all of this thing. Like there was just so much uncertainty. And that was extremely painful. My health started like, being compromised, like not being able to go to the gym or eating like crap, like all of that. It was just so tough, sleep deprived, um, very, very difficult. And on top of that, we're in COVID and it was just like all the uncertainty around us of like what's happening in the world in 2021. Like it was just all of it. So I would say that was challenging. And then having an identity shift of like leaving the NICU. And I spent 90 days setting aside my ego. And I said, I'm going to now take money and learn how to do something that I've never done before, which is I'm going to start a new business to replace my wife's income. And I'm like, I'm learning from my friends and my friends that I was friends with. I said, I want you to teach me how to do because they were all running multi seven figure experiences, crazy money. Like my buddy Rob Dial, like Rob, like, dude, we were friends together in college. I'm gonna pay you to teach me some of your stuff. And like my buddy Peter Voog, like we were homies. I'm gonna pay you to help me do these things. Mike Chu, these are all 7 to 8 figure, 9 figure guys and I'm like, I'm going to pay you for 90 days to help me figure some of this stuff out. So invested multiple, 5 figures to kind of dedicate 90 days to figure out how I'm going to do this. And then I went full tilt and I was like, let me execute and built a coaching company that generated 6 figures. It was got to multi 5 figures in the first 11 months per month on recurring, and then launched the other business with that I mentioned. And was able to exit that and like just implementation of all that stuff. It was very, very challenging. It was humbling. It was like being a white belt all over again. And man, the amount of lessons that came from that, like just trusting my intuition, trusting my skills, trusting my ability, letting the ego aside, investing into self-development, personal growth, and like trusting that. Um,
I love all that, man. You
yeah.
have such amazing testimony, man. I really do love it. Well, just in closing, I guess the first of all, shameless plugs. I love giving this at the end. How do people find you? What is it like if you were gonna have a wish list of what you hope to get from our viewers? How do people like what is your next venture? What's your wish list that you can get if you can have people reach out to you with um and yeah, and how do they find you?
So right now, my new company is called the Warm Method, and the Warm is like a warm ask referral marketing, like how to do warm referrals. So I built a website, and I have all the playbooks, everything I've done is on there. No, you don't have to even give a login, like no opt-in, no email, nothing. It's just on warmmethod.com for free. All the best things for you to just do it yourself. So if you want to build a warm referral marketing department in your company, just go to warmmethod.com. And then while you're there, if you decide that you want to opt in, I ran a workshop for Cameron Harold, and he has a community of COOs, and it's like one of the biggest COO communities called the COO Alliance. And he had me come in and run a few workshops for him. I got permission to give those workshops away. So that's my opt in. So if somebody wanted those, and it was built for people that are running anywhere from a $5 million company to a $900 million company. That's who his community is built. So the average is about 15 to 20 million. So that's who those workshops are built for. You could get those for free. That's on the website, warmmethod.com. And then there's offers on there. I mean, if there's ways to hire me, I would love that. I have a team that I've started to build where we'll just come into your company and build the referral department for you. And that's kind of the high tier. And then there's like some coaching if you want just like some consultant work or weekly support or something like that. That's more of like that middle tier. And then we're building a community of where it'll be like a low ticket type of thing, but it's all very new. So it's one of the best times that somebody could like kind of get in with me is because I'm looking for test geniuses that I could implement my 20 years of experience in a new venture. So that's kind of why I've been a little bit quiet on what I'm doing and how I'm offering. But there's a couple of key people who've trusted and believed in me, like I mentioned, and hence how we got connected through Sam Taggart. And so I run the Roofing CEO podcast for him, and that's how we met. So I'm like excited to just keep forging relationships with really good people and just trust that and see where that goes. So, but if you want to stay in touch with me, warmmethod.com would be great.
Perfect. And for our viewers, the links will be on the bottom of the podcast as well. So, well, Mike, wealth of knowledge. I feel like I can probably talk to you for hours and hours. You're just kind of one of those guys that have a lot in there, and it's all on recall, which is beautiful, right? You don't even have to think about it. It's experiential, which I appreciate. And I love the shoulder to shoulder. I love the philanthropy. I love the giving back. I love the lack of scarcity mindset. You have so many of the checklists of what I look for just in not just mentors, but just friendships and good people in general. So thank you for that you trusted me and to be your first podcast in a while. And once again, like, subscribe. We're real pain equals real growth, pain points. And we'll talk soon, I'm sure.
Thank you.